Yes, it's another Wednesday. Another opportunity to sit back, relax, and just hang out for a while. Let's hang out. Hey everybody, it's Wednesday again, which means we're back. Let's hang out. What's going on, guys? If you're new to the show, my name's Will. This is a podcast talking about life and things going on, and it's meant to be just kind of feeling like a hangout, chatting with somebody, or getting to listen and then feel like your topics, things you've wanted to talk about, are right in front of you, and it's okay to talk about them. But it's meant to be that kind of hangout feel through the whole thing. So hopefully we can get that to you guys, make you feel that today. Kind of a heavy one, heavy topic today, but I know it's one that's on a lot of people's minds. It has been a very difficult thing, and it's become more apparent over the last few years that people are struggling to really kind of get it out of their system and talk about it. So I figured I would be maybe the catalyst to help you get it out of your system today. And again, it's a heavy topic because it's one of those that it's not easy to talk about. But we'll get to that in a second here. If you guys want to join the conversation or talk about anything about the episode, you can find us on any social network at Letshangoutpod. You can also use hashtag Letshangoutpod to address things in this episode, talk about other topics, suggest other topics, whatever you guys would like. It's an easy hashtag for us to find, and it makes things more fun when you guys join in. So please feel free, if you guys have anything about this topic today, please feel free to use it. And to use the tag and talk about it. Let's see, what do we want to do today's hashtag as? Let's go with hashtag letting go. Hashtag letting go. I'm sure that's probably going to be tied to something else, but we'll deal with that later. Let's see, where to start? I say letting go for a few reasons, and I say that's going to be a very difficult topic for a few reasons. So if it takes me a minute, you guys see me kind of stopping to process this, it's what I expect from a lot of people when they first really start thinking about it. Not going to air dirty laundry, not going to give out more details than I need to, but let's talk about the connection, the bond between you and a parent who maybe is not the best person or best influence in your life right now. Regardless if there's turmoil or anything that have led to that, if it's just an unhealthy bond with them, sometimes they're just that way. Sometimes they have habits that they've carried over from when they were younger. They picked up from their parents, and it just carries over, and you're finally to that point that you want to end the cycle. You know, you don't want to be the one repeating those same things. Sometimes it's just you got to get them out of your life. You have to cut them out of your life and let go. Personally, one of the biggest things in my life that I've been working through, I've honestly been trying to work through it, and I've got a great book that I've been reading, and it's been helping me kind of understand the traumas and struggles in my life. And a lot of it comes back to my mother. And before I get into that mess of a topic, even further back than that, my grandmother, her mother, there's just a lot of bad blood. And it's not bad blood so much as it is misplaced feelings, I guess. I really don't know what it is from her side. So backstory, years ago, after my wife and I had gotten married, and my grandmother finally met my wife, and you know, we'd started to build a bond. My wife and her started to build a bond. They started to get to know each other and stuff. Randomly one day, my grandmother, again, on social media, where I feel like some older folks should not be, again, conversation, we can get into this a whole bunch another time, but she got on a Facebook post that we were praising things about. My wife had started some health changes, and my grandmother made a very rude, indirect jab at my wife about her weight. And then it's just kind of spiraled since then. Even prior to that, actually, my grandmother had said at one point when I was celebrating something, I only remember what it was. It's been so long, I've tried to black it out. But it's just this one moment that still kind of sticks out in my head. I was celebrating something, and I was chatting with some friends on Facebook, where the bigger social connection was at that time. We didn't have, Twitter like we do now, and Instagram and all that stuff. It was mostly Facebook, and even I think MySpace was still around. But we were just making comments back and forth, having a good time, and she called me out for being venomous and evil and full of hatred in all of my comments. And I was like, we were joking and having a good time. Like, we were having fun. We were all laughing about it. And it was people that I had worked with and friends that I've had for years. Just, we were having a great laugh. And then out of nowhere, she says that. And that kind of, it hurt. And since then, I've removed my grandmother from my life in many ways. Many ways. I don't actively seek to have my grandmother at things anymore. I don't go out of my way to put myself into a situation where I'm directly involved with her anymore. Family gatherings, if she's there, I don't go seeking her to have conversation. I don't try to make any contact with her. I just, I'm civil about things, but sometimes it's just better to let them go. And at that point, when somebody like your grandmother, again, somebody that you are taught when you're younger, your grandparents should be loved wholeheartedly, and they should reciprocate that love back to you. Sometimes that's not the case. Do I think my grandmother loved me when I was younger? Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know what triggered the change when I got older, but whatever it was, I never did anything directly to hurt her or to put anybody in bad light for anything. And again, it was one of those, like, the comment came out of nowhere. The comment about my wife came out of nowhere. She never apologized. That's the other side of it. Because even when we talked about it, she never apologized for it. She just said, that's what I said. So, not going anything more than that. Again, not going to air a bunch of dirty laundry. You guys are getting just the basics of it, because that's really anybody needs, is to be able to relate to it. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that's happened with my grandmother, but the big takeaway is that I pushed her out of my life completely. I don't need it. I don't need that negativity. My wife and I decided years ago that we don't want negativity in our life. So if somebody is constantly causing problems or belittling others, doing things that are only benefiting themselves, and then very blatantly, crying for help and trying to be the victim in situation, like, it's just, there's a whole mess of things that give that negative energy. And I'm not pinpointing anybody particular, because it's a lot of people, and sometimes they don't know they're doing it, and that's okay, because if you can get past it, we can get past it, we can move forward with things. But we had decided years ago to get that kind of stuff just out of our life. And that's where my mother comes into play. So there is a little bit of context here that needs to be explained to fully kind of grasp why I decided to push somebody like my mother away. And it wasn't a heavily toxic relationship. I want to be clear on that, because a lot of people tend to tie toxic relationships with a lot of the issues. And I'm here to tell you that it's not always a toxic relationship. Sometimes it's a healthy relationship that just happens to turn sour because of things, and one side doesn't see the problem. So in this case, my mother and I, we had a great bond when I was younger. We shared a lot of information. I was always relying on her for things. She was kind of my go-to. My dad and I didn't have a great relationship growing up. Never anything terrible. We just, it's that father figure, very, very much the, like, towering, scary figure. And he wasn't tall. It wasn't scary at all. It was just that in my head, talking to him about anything, it's like trying to walk up to somebody with every ounce of fear of what they're going to do. We eventually got over that, but My mother, like I said, we had a great relationship. We had a lot of things that were really good. After we had our first kid, my wife and I, after we had our kid, things started to get a little weird. And then after we had our second and my dad passed away, my mom kind of fell off the rails. And if you guys have ever had a parent who's lost their significant other, and have spiraled, you guys know kind of what this is like. I don't want to go into a bunch of details. It's personal stuff for her, but just a lot of not great choices being made about things. And at one point, it turned into almost like a give and take situation with her. Like, she would show up, she would come over to these gatherings for birthdays and holidays, but she wants something in return. And it was never just to be there for the food or for like the birthdays, to come over and spend time with the grandkids. It was the showing up and asking for money, or asking for this, that, and the other. Just it became very much I will be there, but I need this. And we finally put her on the spot one time and asked her, like, are you here to be grandma, or are you here because you need stuff? And we didn't really get an answer. And then we found out she was doing some not great things, and I put her on the spot again because I didn't want my kids involved in that situation, now knowing what she was doing. We didn't want her to be involved with them and have them anywhere near what was going on. So I asked her, I was like, are you here to be grandma? Are you willing to be grandma to these kids who love you? Or are you going to continue to make these bad choices? Which, you're an adult, you can make your own choices, I get that. But around the kids, like, you can't be doing this. So are you going to keep doing this, or are you going to be grandma? And she chose the bad options. And at that point, we started distancing ourselves from my mother. And up until a few years ago, we were still kind of sporadically seeing her. And I made the choice to stop seeing her because all those things were still happening. It was a lot of the asking. It was a lot of the trying to really, like, be the victim in every story, and just a lot of bad things, you know? And again, my relationship with her never went into a real negative until later on when she started to spiral down. And I don't hold that against her. That's something, I don't hold that against her, because she lost her husband and was put into a very stressful situation. And I get it. You know, sometimes we make bad choices in those kind of situations. I'm not innocent, you know, but it was a decision to remove that negativity and to stop rewarding her bad choices with everything that we were offering and trying to show her, you know. It's very difficult to explain. Like, I don't want it to come across as like we took away family and time like that. Like, we took away one of the avenues that she had of getting what she wanted. You know, she was trying to find ways to get money, and just stuff like that. So we removed ourselves from that all the way around. And like, it's been rough, you know, but it was something that needed to be done. And when we found out that I had cancer a few years ago, and we're getting that taken care of, when we bought our house, she didn't bat an eye, nothing. Wasn't moved at all, knowing that I had cancer and I was dealing with it. Just complete and total lack of care. And, you know, from your mother, from your parents, you kind of hope, I don't want to say expect, but it's kind of expecting. Like, you hope that when you're in a situation like that, when you've had a bad health situation, a physical health emergency, that they're still going to be there like they were when you were a kid. And my mother just did not show an ounce of care at all. Even to this day, the only response I've gotten from her was years later when she found out that I did have cancer. And it's not that she just found out at that point. Like, we were having a conversation, she was at a birthday party, and it got brought up, somebody made a comment about it, And I was like, yeah, I went through it and we dealt with it and it's been dealt with. But yeah, it happened. And she just kind of sat there, deer in the headlights, like, oh my God, I didn't know. You knew and you chose not to do anything. So we haven't even given her the new address where we live, and we've been here almost 3 years. And it's gonna stay that way because that's the choice that we've made. And to tell you the truth, it's difficult. It's a very difficult choice to make, but it was one we had to make. And it's one that I encourage you guys, if you're in those kind of relationships, if you're battling with that inner turmoil, that inner battle of, is it the right thing? I'm going to tell you that it's going to be okay. If you have to remove a family member for any reason, because they are creating a toxic relationship, they are not helping you move past whatever you were trying to move past, they are making situations worse, anything like that is negatively impacting you right in that moment where you are trying to improve yourself, trying to heal, trying to recover, trying to do whatever. It is okay to separate yourself. And it's hard. It's not an easy thing. You know, with my grandmother, it was a very easy step away because at that point I was running very high in emotions. But looking back, you know, it's still one of those choices I don't regret, especially with my grandmother. On my mother's side of things, it was a difficult choice. And unfortunately, it's one of those that it's still difficult because it's my mom. I love my mom. You know, I don't talk to her. I don't get to see her very much. But it's my mom. I don't wish any ill will of her. I simply wish that she finds the healing path that she needs to move forward and to get out of her funk. But I refuse to be part of the crutch that's keeping her where she's at. And that's a very difficult thing to realize. So if you're one of those going through that situation where you're dealing with family, loved ones, anybody like that who is putting you into a predicament where you feel like you have to pick between them or progress, them or healing, pick you. Please pick you every time. Because sometimes that's the first step to finding a solution for both sides. And it's rough, okay? It's not going to be an easy thing. You're going to feel guilt. You're going to feel all the different emotions that come from pushing somebody away. But you've got to keep moving. And you really just kind of hope that eventually down the line that they come back and you guys can pick up where you left off when you guys were in a good place with things. And you don't go back to repeating bad habits or encouraging their bad habits or any of that. I want you guys to understand, I'm not telling you to go and cut ties with everybody. It's situational. You've got to weigh your options. You've got to weigh what's going on. But the one thing I want you to stick to, the one detail I want you to remember, is that you come first. Your mental health comes first. Your well-being comes first. Whether it's you, your family, your kids, whatever you value in your life, that comes first before anybody else's needs. Take care of it. Take care of you. Don't let the victim card pull you in. Unless it's true. You figure out what that means on your own, because that's going to be different for everybody. But most times that victim card is attention seeking. Most times it's a need for something to be provided. Don't fall into the trap. Don't give into it. And just work through it. Again, it's going to be brutal. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some work. But just do it one step at a time, one day at a time, one foot in front of the other, and you will eventually find a much better place at the other end of things. You know, I don't regret my choices. I don't regret pushing my grandmother away and keeping her away. I don't regret pushing my mother away and keeping her away. I hope that eventually she'll come back and, you know, hopefully we can recover and continue on with the mother-son relationship. but I'm also not putting all of my energy into trying to make that a thing, because I have 3 kids that need my focus. I have a wife who needs my focus. You know, we have our entire life to figure things out, and if the hardest part is figuring out whether or not I need to put energy into acknowledging my mother, you know, if that's the hardest part of my life, then I'm okay. I'm doing pretty good. If that's the painful part of my life is figuring that out, then I'm doing pretty good. But it's okay. So I think I rambled a little bit there at the end. I feel like I did, and I'll probably have that fixed in post. If you're seeing this and I've already edited it and it doesn't feel like it's that long, I probably cut quite a bit out. Just being truthful with you guys. Like I said, it's a heavy topic, and that's part of letting go, is letting them go and figure their things out, and don't feel bad about it. It has to happen sometimes. But you guys, I think this is a great point to wrap things up. This is, again, heavy. This was not an easy topic, and we'll probably bring it up again. I'm still working through stuff, and I know there's a lot of people out there that would like to talk about things they're working out and get that out of their system, because something about holding it in so long and then finally just like getting it out there, getting it out of your system, it's such a weight being lifted off, you know? And talking about this hasn't been a weight for me in a while, but it's still a rough topic. But I felt like I needed to have the conversation and get you guys to understand, to get some folks out there who are struggling to understand, like, you're not alone in this. It's not uncommon, and it's very difficult to go through, but it can be done, and you guys will come out better on the other side. I promise. I promise that you taking the step for yourself will feel better on the other side when it happens. When you finally get to that final point of progress that you want to reach, whatever that is, whether it's self-healing, self-improvement, when you get to that destination, that goal, that rough choice that you made forever ago is back behind you, that hard choice wasn't so hard. You'll get there, guys. So let's wrap it up. Let's call it a day with this and get things moving into the weekend for you guys. I will see you in the next episode. I'm not sure which one's coming up next. I've got a few recorded. We'll see where we end up. We'll see where this one ends up. You guys, please have a wonderful rest of your day, rest of your weekend, and I will see you in the next episode. Big hugs all around, you guys. Take it easy.